Hey there, thanks for tuning into DuckBricks. I'm Chris and welcome to a brand new episode of Ninjago Retold, the show where I tell the entire storyline of LEGO Ninjago from the beginning to the end in chronological timeline order, starting off with our prologue, then the pilots, and going all the way up through the Garmadon comics and the first half of Season 11. Now it's time for Episode 15, Part 2, the Ice Chapter, featuring the second half of Season 11 in 2019, which focuses on the Never Realm and the terrible might of the Ice Emperor. And so, without further ado, let's jump up, kick back, whip around, and roll that intro. Previously on Ninjago Retold, Revenge of Asphira. Out of practice due to the months of peace since the Oni invasion, the ninjas seek out a new quest of their own, venturing to the Desert of Doom and meeting famed explorer Clutch Powers to investigate an ancient pyramid, home to none other than the deadly serpentine sorceress Asphira. Magically entombed by Wu and Garmadon eons ago and bent on revenge, Asphira seizes an ancient relic, a scroll of forbidden Spinjitzu, and uses its corruptive power to lay siege to the city. But in a climactic confrontation at the monastery, Zane is forced to use the evil power of the scroll to defeat Asphira, but is blasted over 50 years into the past in the process, hurtling through time and space as he arrives in the Never Realm, corrupted into becoming the evil Ice Emperor. Now, the ninja must fight to uncover the truth and save their friend, as they venture into the most treacherous realm of all. This is Ninjago Retold!
You're a long way from finding a ninja in these parts, old man.
Lloyd is the Green Ninja.
I am the ultimate Spinjitzu master!
Support me, friends, for one last time.
The new Serpentine War has just begun.
My master has arrived.
Guess it's true. The greatest love stories do always end in tragedy.
Maybe I'm departed.
Control time! Control everything!
I have no son.
I cannot fight you, but I can resist you.
Endings will always come. All we can do is fight to make them good ones.
Revenge!
Protect those who cannot protect themselves.
You were programmed by the game to lose, but you don't have to.
I want you to promise me that you will always stand up to those who are cruel.
We are the keepers of the amulet.
I'm Nina. I am the sea. We are one.
There will be peace in the dark.
Episode 15, Part 2, the Ice Chapter, Secrets of the Forbidden Spinjitzu. Chapter 1, Village of Ice. 50 years in the past, Zane arrived in the Never Realm, disoriented and confused. In the prologue of our tale of Ninjago Retold, we told of how the vengeful, greedy Vex, cast out from the Formlings tribe and banished from the kingdom, came upon the lost and bewildered Zane. In a desperate attempt to power up Pixel's Titan mech, Zane connected it to his power source, leaving one last message of farewell, but was interrupted by Vex in the process, wiping his memory and being tricked into thinking he was the rightful ruler of this realm. And as Zane's terrible rule as the dreaded Ice Emperor begins, the Neverrealm descends into tyranny and despair. Vex using Zane to get revenge on his former tribe, the Formlings, leaving shapeshifting wolf Akita without her brother Kataru on the night of their transformation ceremony, wiping out a clan of Yeti-like creatures in the mountains, and terrorizing the people of the Villages of Ice. And as Zane's terrible rule stretched on for decades, the denizens of the Neverrealm prayed for salvation, and the ninja were about to arrive. Hurtling through the ethereal divide, the land bounty came crashing down in the Neverrealm, plummeting onto a precarious cliff. As the ninjas struggled to free themselves and get to solid ground, their traveler's tea was lost by Cole in the process. and the ninja began fighting amongst themselves, for they believed that that was their only way out, unaware that their traveler's tea grown in Ninjago would be useless in the Neverrealm, and they were doomed from the start. As Lloyd took charge and settled the arguments, he bid his comrades to venture deeper into the Forsaken Realm, lest they freeze to death. Hiking through swirling snowstorms and facing freezing temperatures, the ninja finally made it to the ground, coming upon a forest, but realizing they were being stalked by dangerous frost wolves in the process, feral animals searching for their next meal. As the heroes fled deeper into the forest, the wolves stopped their pursuit, strangely turning tail and running in the opposite direction. For little did the ninja know, but they were getting closer and closer to the castle of the Forsaken Ice Emperor. Just then, they came across a terrifying sight. Before them were the frozen, yet still alive bodies of villagers, hunters, and fishermen, trapped in suspended animation as their eyes glowed an eerie blue. But before they could come to terms with this horrendous sight, Nia received a faint signal from the Titan mech, and their path to saving Zane was clear. But struck by the plight of these mysterious villagers, Jay insisted that they stay and help them first, but was overruled by Lloyd and Nia, who insisted they needed to know more before helping anyone else. As they continued to trace the faint signal of the Titan mech, the ninja encountered the Frost Wolves again, forced to stand their ground and fight, until a group of hunters drove them off with their arrows, introducing themselves to the ninja and bringing them back to their village of Great Lake. Here, humble settlers eked out a life in the Neverrealm amidst the cold and treacherous conditions. Led by village elder Sorla, the people of Great Lake had been victimized by the Ice Emperor for over 50 years, but had mostly kept to themselves, keeping out of Vex's watch. As Sorla introduced herself to the ninja and explained their plight, she agreed to help them locate their friend. But after conjuring up a potion into their great hearthfire to seek out Zane's location, it only showed the foreboding Castle of Ice, and Sorla realized the odds of saving their friend were astronomically low, for he had seemingly been taken as a prisoner of the Ice Emperor, and nobody had ever escaped his grip. Still determined to rescue Zane and save the villagers, Lloyd refused to back down, but was warned by Sorla of the vicious General Vex, whose enchanted ice saw all. And in the depths of the castle of the Forsaken Emperor, the treacherous Vex, advisor to the king, glimpsed the ninja's arrival in his ice crystals. Appearing before Zane, the Ice Emperor, who was kept in a dreamlike state under the thrall of the Forbidden Scroll, Vex twisted his mind, suggesting that these new villagers from another realm may be looking to overthrow him and free their prisoners. And so, Zane commanded Vex to send out the Blizzard Samurai to punish his foes and wipe them from the face of the realm. Orders that Vex relayed with pleasure, for he knew that secretly, these visitors could be Zane's old companions, and he would do anything to retain his thrall over the Ice Emperor. And as the Blizzard Samurai set out to fulfill their master's orders, comprised of corrupted, former royal guards and even zombie-like beings made of pure ice, their footsteps were overheard by a scouting party deep in the outskirts of the village, with hunters Utog and Boma rushing back to warn the villagers. Back in Great Lake Village, Lloyd sat with Sorla by the fire, discussing the best path to the Castle of Ice, and the elder explained that the only path to the Forsaken Castle was through the passage of Mala Wojira, named after the great sea serpent Wojira that once terrorized the realm of Ninjago in the time before the first Spinjitzu master, whose terrible tales had crossed realms. And this deadly passage could succumb to an avalanche should you make any sound while crossing it. As Lloyd headed outside with his next destination set, he reunited with the other ninja, Nia explaining that strangely, the Titan mech signal was incredibly weak, cutting in and out, almost as if its batteries had been exhausted. Which was impossible, as from the ninja's point of view, Zane had been captured and sent to the realm just days before. Just then, Utog and Boma rushed in, proclaiming that a legion of Blizzard Samurai were marching to their location, and Sorla called an emergency meeting to mount their defense. Terrified, the villagers explained to the ninja that their hearth fire must be protected at all costs, and eternal flame kept constantly burning, for temperatures were far too cold to ever make another fire. Since Kai's elemental powers were drained, he was powerless to help them. And with there being no way to transport the fire, the villagers and the ninja had to make a stand. And so, these ice fishers and ninja leapt to action, spending their entire day constructing massive ice walls, defense forts, and training with spears and sticks, all while Zane's blizzard samurai drew ever closer. While Kai confided in Sorla that he felt powerless to help, she comforted him in the fact that elemental power cannot truly be stolen, and with time, patience, and willpower, it would one day return. By sunrise, the fortress was up, and, just in time, for striking from the mist, a plethora of whirling arrows pierced the fog, a hail of deadly projectiles signaling the first wave of attacks. As the villagers scrambled to defend their home, the samurai arrived, ice sword masters and archers forming the first wave, while the warriors of ice climbed the ramparts, an all-out battle breaking out. As Lloyd and Cole fought the warriors, they were surprised to see that upon defeat, some seemed to awaken from a deep slumber, confused as to where they were. Until the ice crept over them again, their eyes glowed a deep blue, and they redoubled their attacks, leading the ninja to realize that these warriors were being controlled by the ice. As the ninja pressed their defense, they realized that other warriors shattered into pure ice crystals upon impact, and parts of the army were also made up of living ice. But just as they began to succeed in their defense, Grimfax joined the fight. Former Emperor of the Neverrealm, Grimfax had been subjugated by Vex and Zane, forced to join their Blizzard Samurai, and over the years had been beaten into submission, relinquishing any hope and simply acting as a tool for the Ice Emperor, who he realized could not be defeated. With the powerful, axe-wielding Grimfax in the fray, it was too much for the powerless Kai to handle, until Cole blasted Grimfax backwards with his lava arms, and the ninja had seemingly won. But the powerful samurai knew that the Ice Emperor had given him a task to complete, and Grimfax would be punished if he did not succeed. Lunging into the central hut, the resigned general smashed his ice axe onto the sacred hearthfire, extinguishing its warmth, and solemnly called his samurai to retreat, his mission complete. Aghast at the loss of their flame and facing extinction, the villagers succumbed to grief and anguish, until Kai, finally fed up with his uselessness over the past weeks, tried harder and harder to reconnect with his element, and finally, in a surge of light and life, his elemental powers began to return, and the hearth fire blazed once again, villagers chanting Firemaker as they praised this superhuman feat. And yet, they were unaware that the watchful eyes of Vex were always on them. Seeing that the mission failed and the villagers still had their fire, the deceitful general fumed in rage, and began putting the next phase of his plan into motion. Chapter 2: Zane's Farewell. In the Great Lake Village, the ninja focused on repairs and integrated into life with the villagers, Jay and Nia working on repairing the roofs, while Cole asked Nia if she could be able to control the ice itself, but quickly realized that she could not control frozen water. As the ninja bantered and life returned to a semblance of normalcy, Kai reveled in being seen as a hero to the villagers, using his elemental powers to cook fish and keep others warm. But as the ninja talked, Sorla pulled Nia aside, stating that as Master of Water, with enough concentration, she could actually control ice as well, but this would be no easy feat. As the ninja talked, Lloyd explained to Nia that he had to go to save Zane alone, for Vex and the Blizzard Samurai would be focused on the Great Lake Village, and he stood a greater chance by sneaking in himself than with the team. And so, somewhat reluctantly, the heroes agreed to let Lloyd venture forth to the castle by himself, giving him the Titan mech tracker so he could use it to storm the fortress. But despite all this, nothing escaped the watchful eyes of Vex. Realizing that Lloyd had left alone, Vex descended into the dungeons of the castle, greeting his captive, the bear formling Kataru, brother to Akita, who had been kidnapped by the Ice Emperor's terrible dragon Boreal years ago, setting Akita on a quest for vengeance. As Vex confronted Kataru, he offered him a role in their ranks, tempting him with freedom and a new deal. But Kataru refused, rebuking Vex's offer and refusing to even speak to him. Back on the trail to the Castle of Ice, Lloyd was beset by a pack of vicious frost wolves. Alone and forced to defend himself, he drew his sword, ready for battle, until a mysterious three-tailed white wolf drove them off. As the lone wolf stood at attention, painted with majestic red markings, Lloyd felt a strange intelligence in its eyes, offering it some cooked fish and continuing on his journey as the wolf watched on. For this was Akita, wolf formling in disguise, who sought out Lloyd as a potential new ally. By the time Lloyd reached the passage of Mala Wojira, he found the mysterious corridor shrouded in fog and swirling snow. And reaching out from the darkness, he encountered a group of blizzard samurai sent to ambush him and ensure his demise. As they leapt onto him and began to slowly corrupt him with their terrible ice, Lloyd resorted to shouting, causing a great avalanche to cascade onto his foes, knocking him unconscious but destroying the samurai. And when he came to, Lloyd realized he had been saved yet again by the mysterious wolf, who showed him to the wreckage of the land bounty, and used its emergency supplies to take shelter. Just as Lloyd resolved to return to the village and make a new plan, the beacon picked up on the Titan Mech's location, and there was a new hope to rescue Zane. As Lloyd and Nikita ventured through the snow, Lloyd confided in his wolf-like companion, telling her of his fear to become his father, the terrible resurrection of Garmadon at the hands of the sons of Garmadon, and the betrayal of Harumi, someone he had grown to love and trust. Unaware that Akita was a shapeshifter in disguise and could fully understand everything he was saying, and Lloyd was simply just happy to get his insecurities off his chest for once. As they continued to follow the tracker's pings, they came upon a clearing and a massive cave entrance. Despite Akita's hesitation, Lloyd pressed on. But as they drew closer and closer, deafening caws and screeches filled the air, and the duo was beset by a banshee swooping in from above to defend its nest. As Lloyd and Nikita tried to defend themselves, the wolf leaping from rocks to distract the great bird as Lloyd made a break for the cave, he stumbled upon the massive Titan mech in the darkness, which, to his shock, seemed like it had been there for years, aged and weathered by time. It was there that Lloyd stumbled upon an old battery and a screen displaying a message from years before, a farewell from Zane, who had tried for days to repair the Titan mech, but simply did not have enough power to do so. Stating that time felt different in the Neverrealm and he felt lost and alone with his thoughts, he implored the viewer to relay his final message to his friends and family. His last attempt to salvage the mech would be to connect his neural processor to the neck itself, but if anything went wrong, Zane needed to deliver a message of goodbye. And so, the final message of Zane, Master of Ice, son of Dr. Julian, student of Master Wu, played to Lloyd on the screen. He was built to protect those who cannot protect themselves, and he had no regrets. He had the best friends in the world, and a remarkable life that others could only dream of. He had fulfilled his purpose and was at peace. And with one last I love you to Pixel, Zane said his goodbyes and turned off the message, leaving Lloyd with just the silence of the cave around him. In grief over the loss of his friend, but determined to find and save him, Lloyd was now more determined than ever to rescue his friend and bring peace to the Neverrealm. Powering up his energy-infused elemental powers, he worked harder than ever before to flood the Titan mech with green energy, promising to finish what Zane had started. And so, in an explosion of rocks, the Titan mech stood tall once more, bursting from the cave opening and skirmishing with the Ice Banshee, forcing the bestial bird to flee as Akita cowered in terror, only barely being convinced to join Lloyd on the mech. And together, the two set off on a quest to the Castle of Ice, determined to find and free Zane once and for all. Chapter 3: Krag's Lament. As Lloyd and Nikita journeyed alone through the Neverrealm on a path to the Castle of Ice, the rest of the ninja would begin to embark on journeys of their own. As Cole faced nightmares over losing the Traveler's Tea, guilty that he was seemingly responsible for stranding his friends in this forsaken realm, he stormed out in frustration, clashing with Kai and Jay. At the same time, Nia was concentrating outside under the tutelage of Sorla, trying desperately to control frozen water before she was interrupted by Cole, who felt even guiltier about disrupting her training and left to be alone. Coming across a young boy who asked him why he was so upset, Cole explained that he had lost their only way back home, to which the boy told him of a legend of a traveler's tree in the mountains, whose blossoms were said to have the power to cross realms. And with nothing else to do and the village still well defended, Cole resolved to set out and solve the problem himself, fixing a mistake he believed he was responsible for. In the outskirts of the mountains, hunters Utag and Boma were saved by Cole, who happened upon their hunting party at the brink of an avalanche, and the Ninja of Earth explained he was seeking the Traveler's Tree, before being warned it was guarded by a deadly beast, the fierce and vicious Krag, whose roars and cries could be heard all throughout the mountains. While Cole was dubious of the beast's existence, he remained wary, venturing higher and higher into the mountains, until a blizzard struck, and the blinding snow surrounded Cole as he grew colder and colder, and roars could be heard in the distance. Just then, Cole was tackled by a monstrous Yeti, the formidable Krag, who, after a brief skirmish, knocked him unconscious and dragged him back to his lair, while Utag and Boma rushed to warn Kai, Jay, and Nia back at the village. And in the cavern of Krag, Cole awoke, disoriented and confused, and rushed to the exit, using his elemental powers to cause a cave-in and trap the fearsome Yeti under a pile of rocks. But as Cole ventured deeper into the cave, ignoring the anguished cries of Krag, he stumbled upon a set of beds and burial mounds. Realizing that Krag once had a family, and they had somehow perished, leaving Krag as the only Yeti left. Returning to the rubble to try and communicate with the beast, Cole realized that Krag had brought him berries to eat, and actually saved him from the blizzard, and came to the realization that Krag was not a threat, but his entire family had been killed by the Blizzard Samurai years ago, for Vex had deemed them a threat to Zane's existence and twisted the Ice Emperor into wiping out their entire culture and race. With the two reconciled, Cole freed the monstrous Yeti and the two embraced, now allies in their fight against the Ice Emperor. Asking Krag to show him where the Traveler's Tree was, Cole was swiftly brought higher and higher, Krag scaling the mountain peak with the Ninja of Earth in tow, until at last he came upon the glorious Traveler's Tree, and the ninja now had a way out of the realm after they had saved Zane. Returning to Krag's cave, Cole and the Yeti stumbled upon Jay and Nia, who also believed Krag was a threat, until Cole explained the situation, and the group offered Krag a new home with friends in the villages below. And so, with one last farewell, Krag stood and gazed at his former home, planting a branch into the ground and howling at the wind, promising to fight for all the Yeti that were killed by the Blizzard Samurai. Interlude. Meanwhile, in Ninjago. As the ninja were stranded in the Neverrealm, facing the deadly environment and fighting to free Zane, the citizens of Ninjago City began to realize they were missing in action, and the villains locked away in Cryptarium prisons started to plot to escape. Without the ninja keeping watch, these villains believed they had free reign over the city, and so, Ultraviolet, former general of the Sons of Garmadon and the Red Crows, teamed with the Mechanic, brutish former pirate and Chen's enforcer, to make their escape in the dead of night. As the Mechanic used his prosthetic arm to free themselves and the pair snuck away, they were interrupted by a strange prisoner, a criminal in a bird costume who called himself Fugitive. Confused at this appearance, the Mechanic and Ultraviolet tried to shrug him off, but the D-list villain was determined to join in their escape. And so, they reluctantly allowed the pernicious bird-themed villain to aid in their escape. As the trio crept along the subterranean tunnels of the prison, they debated amongst themselves as to which ninja they hated the most, telling tall tales of their least favorite ninja. Ultraviolet claiming that she had Lord and Nia captive, begging for mercy, until Zane swooped in from the skies, piloting a sleek fighter jet and transforming into a multi-limbed, spider-like robotic monster and using beams of ice from his eyes to freeze her solid. A dramatic interpretation of the events of the ninja's return from the First Realm, where Zane's ice dragon had simply frozen her solid in seconds. The Mechanic, on the other hand, claimed Nia was the worst, telling of a time when she had foiled his bank heist and stolen his delivery truck to boot. And finally, Fugitive told of a time where he had allegedly defeated all the ninjas single-handedly, until Jay rocketed in, riding a bolt of pure lightning, and defeated him after a long and intense battle, to the utter disbelief of the other criminals. With their stories over, the criminals managed to make it out of the prison, only to be caught by Pixel as Samurai X almost immediately after escaping, thrown back in jail, and leading to the three agreeing that Samurai X is the worst of all. As she flew back to the monastery, Pixel encountered Master Wu desperate to use Traveler's Tea to find the ninja. Using all remaining batches from Mistake's tea shop, Wu accidentally opened a portal to the realm of Chima, and they were overwhelmed quickly by beavers, Pixel forced to lure them back to the portal, but some escaped into the world of Ninjago. Trying to add even more tea leaves to the batch, they accessed the Underworld, Cloud Kingdom, and even the First Realm, but failed to reach the Never Realm. Finally, pouring an abundance of tea and reaching dangerously high amounts, they tried one last time, but had inadvertently somehow managed to open a portal to the Departed Realm, previously thought inaccessible to any travelers. And out of the Departed Realm came the terrible Preeminent, Queen of the Cursed, killed long ago by Nia in the battle against Morrow and his ghostly legions. Breaking free from the portal and slithering off to Ninjago City, the Preeminent was unleashed on Ninjago once more, and it was up to Pixel to stop this formidable foe. Activating her Kaiju protocol, Pixel powered up a new mech suit, soaring to Ninjago City as the attack began. As news helicopters circled overhead, Pixel saved Gale Gossip and Vinny as they were attacked by the tentacled beast, clashing with the Preeminent while doing her best not to harm the creature more than necessary. Blasting missile rockets at the Preeminent and rocketing in with her mech, Pixel was locked in a duel with the beast, finally pulling out a massive energy sword and slicing off its tentacles, only for the appendages to grow back, ripping off one of Pixel's mech arms. And as her suit lost power, Pixel realized that the only way to defeat the beast was to overload her body and mech suit with power, overwhelming the Preeminent with a burst of energy to utterly destroy it. And so, as she made her way to an electrical tower, Pixel plugged directly into the grid despite Wu's pleas not to potentially sacrifice herself to stop this foe. And with a final request to have Wu tell Zane she loves him, Pixel grabbed the Preeminent, forcing all the energy of the mech back into the beast, and stunning it long enough to be transported back to the Departed Realm. As Gale Gossip ended her broadcast with a thank you to Samurai X, Wu reunited with Pixel, relieved she was okay, but solemnly declared they had used up all the Traveler's Tea left in Mistake's old backlog, and the ninja were truly on their own. Chapter 4, Tale of the Wolf. Back in the Never Realm, Lloyd and Akita continued their perilous journey to the Castle of Ice. With the storm getting worse, they were forced to pick up the pace, and back in the Forsaken Castle, Grimfax had just returned with his attack party, relaying the message to Vex and the Emperor that he had extinguished their fire. Furious, Vex told Grimfax it was still lit, and coerced the Ice Emperor to punish Grimfax, urging him to kill the former Emperor once and for all. Until Zane showed him mercy, promising that he would atone for his failure, but letting him live. As Grimfax left the chamber with his legions, Vex turned his focus back to Zane, stating that his many enemies were plotting against him, and the village of Great Lake had been allowed to live in peace for too long. And so, the Ice Emperor pounded his staff on the ground, commanding that Boreal, the great elemental dragon of ice, should be unleashed upon the village. And as for the stranger, Lloyd, the Ice Emperor conjured a mighty ice behemoth to destroy him and his shape-shifting companion. Miles from the castle, Lloyd and Akita were confronted by Zane's ice behemoth, created with the raw power of the Forbidden Scroll. As the Titan mech engaged the mighty beast in battle, an epic battle of mech versus magic commenced, blizzard swirling around them as Akita did her best to protect Lloyd, but was kicked aside in the process, hurled to the side. Infuriated by the attack on his companion, Lloyd activated the Razor Buzzsaw on his fighting machine, cutting a hole underneath the behemoth's legs and causing it to sink into the ice below, and rushed to tend to Akita, bandaging her leg and camping for the night as she recovered. The next day, Lloyd awoke, but to his shock, he was face to face with not a wolf, but a mysterious girl, for Akita had accidentally transformed into her true form in her sleep, finally revealed to Lloyd. Angry that she had deceived him, Lloyd leapt away from the stranger, stating that he would make it to the castle alone. But as he strode off, he noticed her leg was still injured and recanted his words, apologizing and asking her to explain who she was, and why she had kept her true form hidden from him for so long. And so, Akita told Lloyd the tale of the Formlings, as covered in our prologue of Ninjago Retold, explaining the plight of her brother Kataru, the viciousness of Vex, and how the spiteful general had allied himself with a mysterious, powerful new stranger, the Ice Emperor, who had sent his dragon Boreal to freeze their entire tribe solid, leaving her as the last of the Formlings. Concluding her tale, Akita announced that Lloyd may be traveling to the castle to save his friend, but since she believed that her brother was dead, she was only seeking revenge for him and her entire tribe. Back in the mountains around the Great Lake Village, Cole, Jay, and Nia were returning with Krag, victorious in their quest to recover Traveler's tea leaves, but arrived just in time to see the terrible Boreal soaring to their village on the attack. And in a swift and fierce rush of ice and snow, Boreal swept over the village with its icy breath, freezing the villagers solid. And with his fire powers not fully returned, Kai could only protect himself, failing to defend the children he had sworn to save. As Kai rushed to fight back, powerless against the overwhelming might of the Ice Dragon, Nia, Cole, Krag, and Jay arrived too late, for within seconds, the entire village had been frozen solid, including Sorla. And with their new friend stuck in suspended animation in the ice, the ninja and Krag resolved to take the fight to the Ice Emperor and recover the land bounty to mount their offensive. Back on the icy path, Lloyd and Akita exchanged stories and plans for their future after defeating the Ice Emperor, Lloyd offering her a place to live with them in Ninjago, but Akita wishing to remain in her home. But before they could talk more, the deafening roar of Boreal echoed through the air, for the mighty beast was returning to its home, and it had spotted the massive Titan mech trekking through the snow towards the castle. In a climactic battle, Lloyd made a final stand in the Titan mech against Boreal, lashing out at the ferocious beast as they dueled in a battle of mech versus monster, until Lloyd was flung to the wall, his battle machine utterly destroyed. And without it, he and Akita stood no chance against the formidable beast. As Vex commanded Boreal from afar to capture Lloyd and bring him to the Ice Emperor, the terrible Ice Dragon soared off, leaving Akita furious and alone on the ground. And in the chambers of the Forsaken Ruler, Lloyd was brought face to face with the Ice Emperor, regaining consciousness, and realizing to his horror that Zane was not imprisoned by the Ice Emperor, but was in fact the Emperor himself, gnarled, twisted, and corrupted by the Forbidden Scroll, but still undeniably his old companion, Zane, Master of Ice. Chapter 5: Awakenings. In the sanctum of the Ice Emperor, Lloyd looked up at Zane in fear and disbelief. Begging Zane to remember who he was, Lloyd began telling him stories of their past, all while the Ice Emperor looked on, confused as to what he was talking about. And Vex declared that Lloyd's stories were mere lies, meant to confuse him from his true purpose. As Lloyd caught a glimpse of the scroll of forbidden Spinjitzu locked in Zane's hands, he realized his old friend had been corrupted by its evil power, and asked him how long he had been ruling over the Neverrealm, to which Zane replied that it had been decades, for Asphira had not only sent him across the realms, but also backwards in time, 60 years into the past. Urging Zane to drop the scroll and come to his senses, Lloyd was beset by Blizzard Samurai, Vex urging Zane to kill Lloyd and end the threat, telling him he had come to steal his scepter. But intrigued by Lloyd's words, Zane instead chose to banish Lloyd to the dungeons, much to Vex's disappointment. But as Lloyd was sent away, former Emperor Grimfax observed the proceedings, and began to wonder if there was a way to end the Ice Emperor's rule once and for all. Back in the outskirts of Great Lake Village, Cole, Jay, Kai, Nia, and Krag hunted for the land bounty, fending off frost wolves as they made a break for the wreckage of their once mighty mobile headquarters, and huddling in the makeshift shelter as they worked to get it operational. In the prisons beneath the Castle of Ice, Lloyd encountered Kataru, shocked to see he was still alive, despite what Akita believed. Explaining that he was an ally of Akita and was here to save them, Lloyd was interrupted by Vex, who arrived to taunt the prisoners, saying there was no escape. Back at the land bounty, the rest of the ninjas struggled to restore power to the vehicle, Nia working tirelessly to repair the craft, while Jay, Cole, and Krag battled the vicious frost wolves outside, keeping them at bay long enough to make their escape. And just as they were about to be overwhelmed, Nia managed to complete the repairs and the land bounty blasted off on a direct course to the Castle of Ice, where Lloyd was still imprisoned. Deep within the castle's dungeons, Grimfax crept down to question Lloyd, revealing that unlike the other Blizzard warriors, he still had free will due to his standing as former Emperor. Grimfax demanded to know what Lloyd had meant when he said the Ice Emperor was a good person who was simply corrupted. And, daring to hope for freedom, he released Lloyd and Kataru, the three joining forces to form a new resistance against Vex and the Ice Emperor. As Lloyd, Grimfax, and Kataru made their way through the castle, getting closer and closer to Zane, Akita also arrived at the outskirts of the fortress, shivering from the cold. As she scaled the walls of the castle, knife in hand, she was fully prepared to kill the Emperor once and for all, take her revenge. And even the other ninja themselves were hurtling towards the Forsaken Castle, all sides ready for a climactic final duel. The land bounty raced across the icy terrain, crossing a frozen lake just as the fearsome Boreal soared downwards on the attack. Chasing the ninja's vehicle and blasting it with powerful freezing attacks, Boreal pursued the bounty across the surface of the lake, twisting and turning through the air as it materialized corrupted ice crystals to entrap the heroes, until Nia saw an opening, and, piloting the land bounty up a slab of rock, she drove directly at the maw of the beast, smashing into the fearsome dragon just as it was about to unleash its frigid breath, and knocking the beast to the ground, stunned and unconscious. Back at the castle, as Grimfax, Kataru, and Lloyd made their way to Vex's chambers to destroy the crystal, they were ambushed by the Blizzard Samurai, for nothing escaped the watchful eyes of the devious Vex. As Grimfax and Kataru leapt into battle, they bought time for Lloyd to rush into the chambers of the Emperor, racing to awaken Zane. At the same time, Akita had managed to scale the castle walls, sneaking closer and closer to the Emperor with her knife in hand, dedicated to strike him down and finally take her revenge. But just as Akita managed to approach the Emperor, winding up for the final blow, Zane awoke, stopping her mid-strike as he knocked her down the steps, demanding to know who she was. As Akita lashed out, screaming of revenge for Zane wiping out the Formlings, the Ice Emperor merely stated that Vex had told him the Formlings were plotting to overthrow him, and he had simply done what was necessary to stop them. But these words only enraged Akita even more. As the Ice Emperor prepared to freeze the Formling, Lloyd burst into the room, calling out Zane by name, and challenging him to finish this once and for all. As Lloyd and Zane engaged in a battle of energy versus corrupted ice, Akita was knocked back, forced to watch as the two ninja hurled bolts of pure energy at each other, clashing in a climactic final battle for the Never Realm. As Grimfax and Kataru fought their own battle against Vex and the Blizzard Samurai, they desperately bought Lloyd as much time as they could, but were eventually overwhelmed by the might of the samurai, captured by Vex. Back in the outskirts of the castle, as the rest of the ninja inspected the ice dragon Boreal, Nia realized the beast was made of pure ice, and began to suspect the terrible truth that Zane was the Ice Emperor. Realizing that the corruptive power of the scroll of forbidden Spinjitzu had twisted Zane's mind, the heroes realized that Lloyd was in terrible danger, but before they could leave, Boreal reawakened, attacking the heroes with its icy breath. As the ninja and Krag leapt out of the way, the rampaging Boreal knocked out Kai, and with Jay and Cole powerless to defend against the Ice Dragon, only Nia was left to defend the team. Focusing harder than ever before, Nia's hands radiated with blue energy as she finally managed to control the element of ice, bringing down multiple stalactites onto Boreal and buying enough time for Kai to wake up. As the Ice Dragon emerged from the rubble, more furious than ever, Kai's eyes glowed with a fiery red as he regained full control over his powers, utterly obliterating the terrible foe once and for all. And with Boreal destroyed, the ninja continued their quest to the castle, where Lloyd and Zane continued their duel, Lloyd defending himself as much as he could, but eventually getting overwhelmed by Zane's might. As Akita was frozen in her efforts to defend Lloyd, who was in the process of being frozen himself, Vex arrived, cheering on the Ice Emperor and urging him to kill Lloyd once and for all, until the Green Ninja called out for his former comrade, begging him to stop. As the Ice Emperor stood back, confused and unsure of who he was and why Lloyd kept calling him Zane, Vex grew impatient, seizing a spear and taunting Lloyd for his failure to protect anyone, including himself. But upon hearing those words, Zane awoke from a deep slumber, remembering why he was built in the first place, to protect those who cannot protect themselves. As his memories rushed back and Zane remembered who he was, he fought to stop Vex, blocking his strike and blasting him backwards as he smashed the Forbidden Scepter, destroying the corruptive scroll and ending the curse on the Neverrealm after decades of despair. Overjoyed to see his friend regain his memories, Lloyd was helped up while Akita had a touching reunion with her brother Kataru, and the rest of the ninja arrived to reunite with Zane. As the Neverrealm saga concluded, Vex was cast out, banished from civilized lands, while Grimfax returned to his throne and the ninja prepared to return to Ninjago with the Traveler's Tree berries from Krag. And in an emotional goodbye, the heroes bid farewell to their new comrades and allies from the realm, emerging back in Ninjago at the Monastery of Spinjitzu and reuniting with Wu and Pixel, who were overjoyed to see them safe and well. And as the sun set on the Neverrealm, Akita and Kataru ran through the forest, Akita convinced that one day they would see the ninja again, and content that after all these years, peace had returned to the realm. And with that, thus ends Episode 15, Part 2, Secrets of the Forbidden Spinjitzu, the Ice Chapter. Stay tuned in 2 weeks for Episode 16, Prime Empire. Alright, and with that we have summed up our look at Episode 15, Part 2, Secrets of the Forbidden Spinjitzu, the Ice Chapter. I hope you enjoyed this Ninjago Retold episode. Let me know down in the comments below, what do you think of the entire season as a whole? I know this one was a pretty controversial season, so I'm really curious what folks think about it. And of course, if you do have any questions pertaining to the timeline or events of the story, do let me know and I will do my best to answer them. Also, comment down below if you made it this far in the video. I know this has been a long one, so thank you all so much for sticking through it. I hope you enjoyed this video, and again, stay tuned in 2 weeks for our next episode as we move even forwards into the future of Prime Empire. With that, we've about summed up this look at Ninjago Retold. Be sure to like and subscribe for even more LEGO news, reviews, discussion, and analyses coming your way very soon. Thanks so much, and bye for now.